We in there. What's up, everybody? Hold on. How's everybody doing tonight? Let's see here. Let me get a little bit of water. Oh man. All right, today's been a long day, but good day. We got through a lot of cool stuff today on Operation Quarantine. That's pretty dope. We finished up some dope stuff. What's up, FGR18? SVJR18, how you doing? We made it. This is the final day of a 12-week boot camp. We're finally here. Somebody outside got some subs. But how's everyone doing? We surprised ourselves today. We got a little farther. We found a tool that kind of did a lot of the stuff that we needed. So yesterday we didn't get through that much, but today it makes me confident that by Friday we'll have us a working prototype, something ready for the world to use, or a couple of us to use. We'll see what happens with it, but it'll be fun. Let me get set up here. Tonight, we're going to have a riveting discussion about how you can take what you've learned so far and how you can use it to be able to get a job, or to, use these. It works for more than just if you're going for DevOps positions. The information tonight will help cover you for most technical interviews. It will be tailored towards DevOps interviews to kind of give you some insight on what DevOps interviews are like and why I personally have found them to differ from software interviews or other technical interviews a bit. So we'll learn a little bit about those things as well. So we'll definitely talk about that. What's up, Adam? How you doing tonight? Welcome. Let everyone get on in. Might need to run and get some. I think I got just enough water to make it through. But yeah. So let's actually, maybe I can pull it up on here. I never actually really thought about that, but let's take one final look at the bootcamp curriculums, and we'll just use the iPad since I don't have it up on the screen for the computer. No signal there. All right, let's go to the computer. Wrong side here. Let's chat box, display capture, turn that off. Let's switch back over here. This is just our Trello board for what we are working on today. And let's take one final look at this, since again today is the final day. I can't believe we're done with 12 weeks. That was so fast. But we're finally here. We did our panel on Sunday night. That was cool. Thanks everyone for making that great. But tonight we have how we're going to conquer the DevOps interview process. Like I said, it does differ a bit from the software process, and we'll talk about that. But that's it. I can't believe it's been 12 weeks since the first of the year. So 12 weeks into the year. So good job. I'm proud of everyone. For people, attendance was consistent throughout the whole thing. I'm pretty impressed. Like we kind of ended with just about the same amount of people we started with. So that's pretty dope. But we do have, for the introduction to Python bootcamps, we are running another engineering panel tomorrow with a different set of engineers. So even though if you're not going through that bootcamp, if you want to come get some information, we are in fact running, the dates are wrong here, but we are running another panel tomorrow for that. But yeah, we did it. So we'll give people a few minutes. We're gonna keep it cool. We're gonna keep it real chill, not too crazy. I think is there audio issues? Oh, never mind. Okay. Do you have 3 PCs? Windows, Mac? So right in front of me, on my setup right now is I have a Windows 10 PC that like runs the whole show, and I have a Linux, a Pop OS desktop that actually you're looking at right now. That's kind of what I have set up here. So I have 3 screens. I got a big screen up top, big 38-inch wide screen up top. I have a 27-inch here and a 27-inch here. Linux is on this one and Windows is on the other 2. I do have a Mac for work. I have a MacBook for work, but I only use that for work. Yeah, and I have a System 76 laptop as well that I use whenever I'm not at the desk. But yeah, I have a collection of machines. I like building things, and I've collected these things over time and decided to do something with them finally because I had them for no reason. But yeah, so we'll head back to the camera view. Can you move the more recent cheerbox covers that other? Hold on. Recent cheerbox. It covers the chat and the other view just switched from. Okay. So yes, I actually think I just need to. I made this view yesterday just for people who asked like during the stream. Let me see if I can move the chat box actually instead of the. Yeah, let's see. Give me 1 second. Let's see what we can do here. Let's move the chat box up. And maybe, well, I'll just leave it here for now. We'll try to make that better. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll make this view a little better. I never intended to have this view. So yeah. Cool. Comes out, it's still available, it's still good to see. Maybe we'll figure out a way to do some kind of opaque background over here. And just put the, we'll probably just make it so that the image is like this eventually, and then put the chat over here, something like that. But for right now, we'll just leave it how it was. Dope. Okay, so let's hop straight into it. So definitely ask your questions. Tonight's a time to ask questions as well. Again, the information that I'm going to talk about tonight is from my experience. It's things that I've picked up over time. I have done a lot of interviews. I've done both. I've participated in a lot of interviews on both sides of the table. So being interviewed and also interviewing people. So again, these are the things that I'm saying are kind of from my experience that I think are helpful. I think they should be helpful across the board, I hope. But definitely share your experiences as well. Whether they contradict with things I say, share them. I want to hear it. I think other people would benefit from hearing those things as well. Yes, Digwan, lots of streaming all week, specifically just this week. Every week's not going to be like this. This week in particular, took off work to kind of do something fun, to do this project, to kind of just hopefully do something fun with people while everyone's at home, kind of in the first real week of this quarantine. So we'll see. Well, I guess it's the second real week of it, but yeah. Cool. So the DevOps interview process. We've learned a lot. And maybe let me pull back up the DevOps roadmap because I think it's super important to look at what we've covered so far. Because I think all of that stuff plays into the things that we need to know. All right. So we've learned all these things. We've gone through and we've learned a bit about programming. We've learned a little about operating system concepts, a little bit about managing servers, a little bit about networking and security, a little bit about web servers, a little bit about infrastructure as code, a decent amount about infrastructure as code, a little bit about monitoring, a tiny bit about monitoring, and not really cloud design patterns. We didn't do that, but we learned a little bit about our cloud provider. So this was a lot of stuff. And we dove. We were pretty shallow on most things due to the complexity of a lot of things, but hopefully we started to understand, DevOps as a methodology, and hopefully a bit of how you could use these tools to start to help developers develop faster, because that's really what the goal is. The goal is to help developers develop faster. But how can you take this information and how can you show that you know it? How can you best approach the DevOps interview? What should you expect in the DevOps interview? So, one, DevOps interviews, I'll say it right up front, are a bit tough because I think as opposed to like a software interview where I think the generally people are probing for aptitude and familiarity. I think a lot of DevOps interviews, unfortunately, this is hold on, this is throwing me off. I think it was a Mario song, but it's bothering me a little bit because it's loud in my headphones. I probably should turn it down. But I think DevOps interviews are probing for it's a probe for both familiarity with technologies, but I think people are looking for those they're probing for experience, and I guess most jobs are probing for experience, but I think in a way that I think DevOps people who are looking for DevOps engineers are looking for information that you've seen some weird stuff, you've seen some crazy stuff, and I think that's what's so annoying about the DevOps interview process, and I think that's what's so tough about getting through it the first couple times, is that a lot of the questions that are asked are yes, they are related to the technologies. There's lots of technologies in DevOps as opposed to software. There's a lot of frameworks and stuff in software, but there are tons of technologies that you can see right here. And one of the ways that I think you should approach this is you do not have to know all the technologies that are in these categories, but really, really, really harp on these center categories, the big major things that we cover, the big headings here. So let's see. Like learning a programming language, all the big headings that are up here, every big bullet point we hit, operating systems, and server management and the cloud, focusing on some aspect of each of these things is very important. But not only focusing on knowing one thing in those categories, I think you need to be familiar with a couple of things, not all of them, but I think you need to have some familiarity, maybe not hands-on experience, but you need to have read about something. Like, I think it's super common for people to kind of probe and to ask you the differences between things in a category. So, hey, I see you have configuration management on your resume. What it looks like you used Puppet before. What do you like about Puppet over Chef? And those questions can be tough when you've only dug into one of them. And it's okay to only have dug into one of them, but you need to have a little bit of familiarity to say, hey, well, I've only worked with Chef. Or I've only worked with Puppet, but I've been interested in working with Chef. I know that is built in Ruby, and that I can write a little bit of Ruby there, and I know that developers like that one a little bit more. What's up, CM Griffin? I see you. Don't worry. Thank you for the raid. How are you doing? Let me make sure we have followers off over here. Let me see. Make sure people aren't stuck. There we go. Everyone there should be free. Hello. What's up, everybody from CM Griffin? How you doing tonight? Welcome. Come on in. We're just talking about, oh, thank you. I appreciate that. My birthday was Saturday. It seems like it was so long ago now, but I really appreciate that. Thank you. I'm good. How was your stream? What were you guys doing over there today? We are just wrapping up. We're just wrapping up 12 weeks of our DevOps Bootcamp tonight, and we're talking about how to approach the DevOps interview process. There's a lot of overlap here with other interview processes as well, but again, there are some specifics when it comes to DevOps that I think will help you kind of not be so overwhelmed with the amount of tools and things. Work more on React Stream Deck plugin. Dope. That's dope. Yeah, I really am interested in these Stream Deck plugins. I do, in fact, use a Stream Deck. I would love to check out the things you guys are working on, because I definitely I don't utilize it to the best of my abilities right now, and I would love to start doing that. I just got more than like 2 scenes going on, and I really use it to start and stop the stream, and sometimes play and pause my music. But yeah, dope. That's awesome. But cool. So that is one of the hard parts is, again, learning the differences between the things in these categories. It's super duper tough. You should focus on one to know really well. And I think you should be able to talk about one thing in this category really well. But I think you do need to become familiar with 1 or 2 other items in each of these categories, again, to know, in doing that, you'll start to see the things that you do like about one over the other, and you'll be able to have conversations about that. I think even if you have nothing super meaningful to say, if you can just have one reason on why you feel a certain type of way about a certain technology over another, it's super important. Just because DevOps is not about this. The tools don't make DevOps, but DevOps is a culture. It is a thing enabled by the tooling. So a lot of questions about tools arise, and you can use that to your advantage because there's so many tools. You can just get familiar with one, and you can talk about it a lot, to be 100% honest. And the person who's interviewing you probably may not know as much about that tool, so they kind of go with the flow. But I found that I found that DevOps interviews are a lot more conversational than software interviews about a lot of things. They tend to, again, end up tracking back to kind of your experiences and those shared, like, this is the time when all this infrastructure went down and things like that. So it's a very interesting process. At least, again, in my experience, that's kind of what it's been. It hasn't been as much of the raw, like, let's have a conversation about this specific thing, and I want you to answer this specific thing. Maybe that's how the conversation starts. Maybe it starts with hey, tell me, I see you have a lot of AWS experience here. Tell me about, the differences between an application load balancer and a network load balancer, and maybe what are the benefits of one or the other. And it's not a super easy question. Again, you have to be pretty familiar with Amazon, but those questions tend to just be the starting point and lead you down, it leads you down your experience track, basically. And people will poke and prod at that, just because the job is so varied. When you have this many tools, when you have this many problems you're trying to solve, everyone does it a little bit differently. The conversation can only go to where you want to take it, to be 100% honest. So that's the first thing we talked about yesterday, but that in the interview process, you have more power than you think to control where the interview goes. And I think in the DevOps interview process in particular, you can really, really, really drive it to the things that like, talk about those tools. Again, be confident in something in the category, drive it towards those things, because it can be super tough to talk about. Now, how do you get comfortable talking about these things? Maybe you do, maybe you do you started to learn Linux and you think it's really cool, but like, how do you show what you know there? How do you talk about what you know about Nginx? How do you like speak about these things? That part takes practice. You need to talk to other people about it before you get to interviews. I know it's weird to do. I mean, but get with someone in the chat, get with someone, in any number of technical, communities. Start having those conversations. Go to meetup.com, find some Slacks. There's all kinds of Slacks out here for everything, and start to just watch the conversations people are having. Have conversations with people, and I think there is an art to learning how to talk about these things. And I think until you start to do it, you don't know your own little way of putting your spin on the tech. And I think that was super tough for me at first. It was like, hey, like, in my mind, there was one way to do something. People would ask me like, when I was doing like Linux admin stuff, I would get questions like, yeah, so tell me about your experience with, FTP. And I'm like, well, I use it to move files. And it's like, well, yeah, like, I know, like, the interviewer's like, I know that, but like, I don't know, just tell me about some things. I don't know, just, this is used again to spark a conversation. And until you've discussed tech in that way, it's very hard to talk about those things. But yeah, definitely focus on these major categories, pick some things out of them, and be able to talk about them, those specific technologies. But even larger than being able to talk about these technologies, in the scope of DevOps, be able to talk about what problems these major categories solve. So these are major categories because they all solve a different piece of the DevOps puzzle, of the pipeline problem. And so that's what you get paid for. That's what you're going to be getting paid for. So it's super duper important to know why you want to do that. Well, why do people care about infrastructure as code? And why? It's because you have, reusable, documented code that's consistent and reliable, that you can use to deploy things over and over again. It's repeatable. It reduces human error. It allows you to manage things at scale much faster. There's so many reasons for each of these things, but taking the time to understand the problems that solve is super important. Why would you want to use something like a CI/CD tool? Like, what problem does that solve? Because once you know the problem, you can weave into any of these tools. That's how you can get over the problem of if someone asks you something specific about Ansible or Chef or Puppet and you've never used any of them, you've only used SaltStack, you can say, hey, I'm not too familiar with that, but I have used, or I know that configuration management tools, are used so that we can, manage many servers at once, and that we can, codify this and have documentation and so that we don't have to manually mess with things, and it reduces human error. Things like that are pretty easy to do, to kind of switch into the why of why you would use something, and to show that you do know something about that category, to be able to understand what tools or topic they're kind of talking about to you, and to be able to fit it into a category and talk about what problems those things solve. Now, this is not super easy to do. It takes time to remember all these different tools and stuff. It helps as you touch them hands-on while you're learning them, but it does take time. I would probably say I was in the industry for 5 years before I was super understanding of everything in these categories. I think before, sure, I was super big into, when I started, I was really big into Linux. So I would kill things in this conversation right here. People would ask me, oh man, I remember when everything was going from Red Hat 6, RHEL 6 to RHEL 7, and that was a pretty big change. And I was a big Linux person. It was like, oh, are you worried? People were asking, are you worried about the switch? Or do you like RHEL 6 or RHEL 7 better? And it was so easy to start. For half the interview, we would talk about kind of the differences, and I would talk about why I preferred the old way, or why the new way seems cool and I understand the benefits, but I need to dive deeper. So remember I said in the beginning, you can get jobs in the industry off of one of these categories, and that's why DevOps is such a big thing, because all these things are important. If you learn a programming language well, you can get a job being a developer. If you understand operating systems concepts and pretty well, you can get a job being a systems administrator somewhere. Same thing for managing servers. You can, be a systems administrator. You can be a cloud specialist if you start to really understand that. If you really understand networking, you can work in a NOC. You can be a network engineer. Web servers, all this stuff. You can be a web engineer, infrastructure as code. All of these things, almost on their own. You can be a release engineer, knowing some CI/CD tools. But a lot of these categories on their own, you can get yourself into the industry. So, you don't only need to go for the DevOps jobs, for one, but there's a lot of stuff here. Dive into all of them, but I would take some time, pick the one that you like the most, that feels the best to you, the one that you feel most comfortable with, and I would dive in pretty deep on one. Being able to talk about just one of these really helps. Really helps a lot. I'm telling you, I leaned on my Linux knowledge for so long, and it's so weird because in the past 4 years, I'm in Linux. I'm running Unix and Linux commands daily, but because the paradigm of things has changed, I've lost all my not all of them, but I've lost all the cool tips and tricks. I used to just kill, you can just chain commands together and get exactly what I want to always. Now I got to Google things all the time, so it's pretty interesting to see how things have changed. I really did used to just live in the terminal and knew everything, all the tools and stuff, and now not so much. Kind of lost some of it, but still able to talk about it and things like that. But okay, so when it comes to the tools, there are a lot of them. Get familiar with one tool from all the major categories, but also get associated with other tools in that category, just so you can speak about those as well. Also, so that you can be familiar with what category people are asking you questions about when they're asking about a specific tool, because they're using that tool as a proxy to kind of ask you those questions. The next one, the next big thing about this, which is very tough, but this is where the practice comes in. Talking about those experiences, talking about real experiences in DevOps really helps. It takes up a lot of time in the interview, which is good. It takes up you can control it. It gives you an opportunity to control things if you can talk about, even if it's just the things that we've done here. If you can say, hey, yeah, I hopped in with Terraform for a week to be able to spin up a load balancer that was running Nginx with three load balance servers behind it. We used Terraform for that, and that was pretty cool because I got to see how you could actually kind of do loops in Terraform, and be able to specify a couple of different servers and only specify the resources for that one time, and I would get all the servers that I needed. And then the next week we worked on Ansible, and we worked on, after using Terraform to deploy those servers, we used Ansible to configure those things with all the tools and the packages that we needed. But being able to talk through things like that really, really helps, because then people ask you questions about like, oh, yes, that's cool. Like, hey, I know that when I use Ansible, I find this to be burdensome. What did you think about that? And you can say, oh, like that's not something that we got to touch. I didn't find it burdensome. It worked pretty cool for our use case, but I understand why it didn't work for yours. And again, that conversation, there's so much more. There's so much. Well, I won't say more, but there's a lot of opportunity here for two people who are studying the same thing, who have been entrenched in the same discipline, to kind of just share war stories almost, which is always pretty interesting. And again, I know that's tough when you're new and you're trying to get in and you're trying to show people that you have this knowledge. This is why in the beginning I wanted to be clear that like, at that DevOps days, we kind of determined that there was no JV in DevOps. There's no JV squad. And that's not to say that means the people in DevOps are amazing. It's not true at all. Remember the quote from Nathan Harvey that this was a discipline that was born out of the experiences of its practitioners. And I do think that's very, very true. I think it's very true. And so, again, don't be afraid of those things, but those are going to be the things that I think, in my experience, people who are interviewing are kind of looking for. Like they're kind of looking for your war stories a little bit. Like not so much. I do care that you understand what Docker is, and I do kind of care that you know the difference between a container and a VM, kind of, but like not really. Like I kind of want to know what you've done with these things. Like, tell me about your company's experience with containers. Like, oh, you're switching to containerized platforms. Like, what are the things that you ran into? Because I know the things that me and my companies have run into, and just kind of talking about those things is, again, it's daunting, but I think it's what gets you. I think it what gets you the job. Like, I'm not gonna lie, almost every DevOps interview position I've ever interviewed for, I've gotten it. I've been offered the position at least, and that is I think that's because of how many different experiences I've had. So I have about 9 years of experience, eight years of experience. But I've served that at like 6 or 7 different companies. So I've seen a bunch of different things. Now, that's not to say I'm not at all the best engineer at all, but because I have those varied experiences, I really do have a lot to talk about. I really do have a lot that kind of fits in. I've had a bunch of completely separate experiences, and it really helps in an interview to kind of talk about those things and be able to tie it back to something that's familiar to the person that's interviewing. So yeah, I think this is a wise man's game, a little bit, not everywhere. I do think things are changing because of the nature of DevOps. I think that's shifting a lot. I think DevOps is becoming something a bit different. I think there's a little bit of merging of roles. I do think in time there will be the line will be super blurred between what is considered a full stack dev and a DevOps engineer. I think a lot of places will, and I think places that are using DevOps engineers as like infrastructure automation engineers are going to move more towards the term of SREs or site reliability engineers. But these concepts apply across the board to those things. SRE, DevOps, systems administration, systems engineer. I think they kind of fall across the board there. So yeah, I think my goal in DevOps, I currently have a lot of knowledge, infrastructure, how much any programming software side of it, the amount of servers I was. Where do you think I should start? Dip my toes in the programming language, Python stuff. I do recommend Python because I think it'll be easier for you, especially if you know some Bash stuff. What is that? Side angle. Maybe I read that really wrong. I can't. It's kind of small. I can't really see it. But I would absolutely say Python first. I like Go. I love Go. I think it depends on how great you're trying to get at programming. But I think Python is the perfect first step for people coming from the infrastructure side of things. That's my background: systems administration, systems engineering. I knew a lot of Bash. I was doing a lot of Bash scripting. Diving into Python first is really good. It'll allow you to do a lot of the things that you do on a daily basis. It'll allow you to help automate those things. So for sure, Python. And also, don't be overwhelmed. I think systems and people who come from an infrastructure side of things get too overwhelmed when trying to dive into more coding and automation, because you end up trying to learn it in the same way that software engineers do, and you end up trying to solve all these algorithms and all this other stuff. It's not what you need. You really need the basics. You need to understand variables and loops and conditionals. And honestly, once you're there, you can kind of do most of the things that you need to do, but you don't need to have that same software background. It does help. The better you are at a programming language, at understanding how software works, I do think the better engineer you can be. But it's just a tool. It's really just a tool in your tool bag. Makes you I think it can make you a little more efficient. That's all. Rail feels so awful to use, like everything on it is out of date. Yeah, Block 7, I think it does as a desktop. Distribution, but as a server distribution, feels like everything else. Lots of packages for it. I think it's pretty good. Anyone use LXC directly? I do not. I do not at all. And so actually, like, just think about the way that I'm answering these questions now. You might read through the chat right now and not understand like what rel is or LXC, and again, I only know about these things over time, and just reading about them, learning about them. You'll pick these things up. You will 1000% pick these things up. But that is why DevOps is so daunting. And it's not because people want to keep you out or anything like that. It's purely because it's kind of all encompassing, where you're supposed to know kind of the full scope of the software development lifecycle. So that makes it a little bit tough. It definitely makes it a little bit tough. But you really just need to kind of be a generalist, to be 100% honest. I don't know, let's see. DevOps versus SRE. So many people conflate the two and don't understand the key differences in their meanings. Absolutely. There's a good video about DevOps versus SRE. I think Google made it actually, because they invented the SRE role, to be honest. But yes, DevOps, SRE, they get smashed together all the time. Generally, so SREs are really your systems administrators who use automation and software to solve their problems. But there's definitely a scale factor to site reliability engineering. For SREs, there's definitely a scale factor to it, and they're usually in support of a development team. They do not SRE roles and teams aren't there to break down the silos. They're not really there to their responsibility isn't really in your pipelines. It's more about the reliability of the infrastructure and being able to handle that. And again, they do use software to as their focus to solve their problems, or at least that's the textbook. That's the textbook definition of it. Whereas DevOps is really the job of a DevOps engineer could stop before the code is in production. Realistically, the DevOps engineer you could have a DevOps team that didn't care about if production stayed up or not. It's generally, again, to build these pipelines, build these processes, implement this automation to really help developers build faster. The developer is really your customer, to be 100% honest. Of what, again, these are textbook definitions. There's a lot of gray area in there. It is really weird. It's super weird. Most DevOps engineers manage and handle the infrastructure in the same way that a site reliability engineer would. But yes, I do think I definitely think there's a level of scale to SREing as well. But it's confusing. It's definitely confusing. Let's see. Have an idea for picking up smaller gigs in DevOps? Codephobia, I do not. But if anyone has any, I would love to know. I thought that was interesting. there was a period of time I was looking for some smaller gigs in DevOps, and everyone I talked to was like, nope, we need a full-time DevOps engineer for this big project. And I'm like, no one just needs just a little bit of DevOps work. But no, I haven't really looked all that hard, so I do not. Let's see, at least in the context of our engineering setup, where I work, DevOps team is split into Cloud Ops and SRE. Yeah, yes. I can see that at a lot of places. And again, see, most people on the DevOps team, and I think the term DevOps team is fine. I think it's really interesting to have DevOps engineers, because again, DevOps is it's an ethos. It's a way of doing this. It's a methodology. So I think it makes more sense to have a DevOps team where people are, I think it's okay to have people who are doing specific things, but I think it's the way you go about it. If they're siloed or not, if the team knows what's going on, I think it's interesting. Let's see, Python 3, skip 2. Yes, skip Python 2. Python 2 is end of life at the beginning of this year. So learn Python 3. What do you recommend as a notebook? Where do you keep your notes? Commands, knowledge. Great question. I keep my notes in a couple different places, to be honest. But the newest place, that's gross. The newest place I keep my stuff is a spot called Notion. So I actually keep my stuff here. And so I actually don't have anything, like these are old. Actually, these are really old actually, but, it's a cool little tool called Notion, that I use. I have a bunch of notes elsewhere. I have a lot of notes in Google Keep. And I have a lot of notes. I have a lot of notes in a bunch of places. But I'm trying to consolidate them, and I really, really like Notion, and I just need to find some time to consolidate them all there. I started to use them for new things. So like, just new stuff. And so this is where I keep it. Notion is free, I believe. But yeah, that's where I like to keep my stuff now. I do have a number. So I have a number of, this is where I used to keep them. You can see here, when I was studying for my AWS certs and stuff, I have a number of these little books. I used to do them here, and I do like them. There's a lot of notes. You can see I do take a lot of notes. So I have this right by my desk. So that's somewhere where I was keeping things as well. But I am trying to consolidate. I'm trying to go paperless. To be 100% honest, I'm really trying to, I got the whole iPad and the pencil just to see if that works. I'm trying to figure out what works best for me. And right now, Notion is really killing the game, for me at least. It's really helping the way that you can organize the things, and the how you can style it almost really helps me kind of memorize it. So yeah, that's what I kind of use. I disagree that Rail feels modern. I don't think Rail feels, well, I guess I'm not sure what you mean. Like I only ever use Rail again as a CLI. Like I don't know. I don't know how it feels old from the command line, but yeah, I don't know. Inkdrop, I'll check out Inkdrop. I'll definitely check that out. I don't know what that is. I do like Ubuntu as well. The downside is most enterprise software will want Rail. Yes, that is true. Very frustrating. Like I use what's this thing called? Not Premiere Pro. I use DaVinci Resolve to edit videos, and it does run on Linux, but it only runs on Rail. It only runs on a specific version of Rail, which is super annoying. That enterprise software thing is annoying. Is CCNA DevOps worth taking? I want to dive into DevOps role and networking automation side. I don't know much about. I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable about the networking roles. I haven't heard of anyone with the CCNA DevOps role. I think that one's interesting. At least so. There's been a much bigger push. There's been a bit of a boom for DevOps on the networking side of things. I know people have been writing tons of Go for that as well. Python and Go, but a lot of Go has been used for some networking stuff. I think what's interesting about that is with the shift to the cloud and stuff, and a lot more software defined networking and stuff. I don't know. I'm sure it's valuable. I'm sure it's valuable, but I don't know how valuable it is at all. Like I said, I've never met anyone with it, and I've actually never heard anyone recommend it, but I don't know much about it, so I don't know. My company is willing to support OSs that are near end of life. That's a lot of people. A lot of people are still supporting OSs that are already end of life. So near end of life isn't terrible. Definitely isn't terrible. All right, everything in an actual physical notebook. Yeah, I do like writing in a physical notebook. My problem is, there is something there. I know there's science out there behind the tactility of writing, and how it interacts with your memory, but I never go back to look at it when I write it down in a book like that. I do go back to look at it when I write it in Notion and stuff. It's a little bit easier for me to search through when I'm looking for something and to reference. So I don't know. I think I'm going to keep doing it like this when I'm taking an exam, when I won't have something for reference. But for something, when I want references for when I'm actually working and stuff and I want to refer to things, obviously it's easier to type and search for things. So I'll probably stick those things in Notion. Yeah. Been using VimWiki to learn Markdown. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know Markdown well. Today we were writing some Markdown for README, and I just use Markdown cheat sheets. But yes, so Notion is, I don't know if it's directly Markdown capable. So Notion, I don't know if it's directly Markdown capable, but it allows for, wow, this is bothering me a lot. Hold on. Control. What's happening? Control Alt. All right, there we go. It does have, like, if I have a new page like this, you can use, it has all the formatting, so like a heading one, and you can type, and you can do like code blocks and stuff. So I'm pretty sure it's Markdown under the hood. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure. Definitely not 100% sure about that. These are nice folios. I haven't seen them in a while, but they do in fact have nice folios. I've been learning Emacs. It's really hard to get into, but easier to work. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I'm a Vim. I do prefer Vim. Emacs is fine. Never spent a lot of time with it. Is the mobile app fast enough for you? I found it slow when I tried it. The mobile app is not amazing. It's definitely not amazing. The phone mobile app I've only been using. I haven't really been using it. I've only been using it to reference things. But the iPad app is pretty decent. Pretty good. Yeah, searching physical notebook must be a pain. It is. It is. Can we get a link to this slide? I don't know what slide. I'm not sure. A slide? Oh, roadmap.sh. Okay, yes, thank you. I was like, did I pull up any slides? But yes, cool. All right, so back to this. So we talked tech a little bit, and again, the technical things. I think in DevOps interviews, you won't really be asked. I think you might be asked situational problems, like, hey, a company needs has a certain software, it has a database and things like that, and they need to be able to serve this many people. Like, what would your steps be? Like, what kind of infrastructure would you create? I've seen questions like that to solve problems. I have not done much. I don't think I've ever done a whiteboarding test for a DevOps interview position. I have done take-home tests. I have in fact done, like, I think I've done a lot of take-home tests for DevOps roles. And it's interesting because they're usually something like it's usually like Ansible and Terraform, rather than a raw like coding test and solving this algorithm. It's usually like a whole scenario. The only problem with that is it's time consuming. We talked about it a little bit yesterday, and like, is that worth your time? And like, what do I think about those things? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a delicate game of like of is the job worth it to spend this time to do this? I don't know. Everyone's got to kind of figure that out for themselves. I think it'll change over time, though. I think early in your career, you're probably willing to put up with more, and later on in your career, you're not. But yeah, so you do get those. Those are they're very interesting. I've had to do take home exams or take home tests with like before I ever did like I think I told the people that I knew. I think at the time I knew just Chef and Puppet, and so they gave me a whole like Terraform and Ansible thing, and I had never used either one of them, and I was able to figure it out because again, the concepts you can Google. It's kind of nice, and you have some flexibility to show some cool things, just show how you operate. Yeah, pretty interesting. I've also seen some really like well. I think the take home tests for DevOps have been relatively well done, or at least well thought out. Like again, time consuming. Don't know if it's worth it, but I've seen them be pretty well thought out. Like I think I did one for like a generalist engineer, DevOps engineer, and it was like all it was. I've talked about it before. I thought it was really cool, but it was like, all right, go here to get the take home thing, and the only thing the page said was try JSON. That's the only thing the page said. And it was like, this seems broken. But if you make you change the content type of the request to JSON or just put .json, you get some information and you get a new link and a new URL and you got to follow it. So then you got to like write this little script. You got to write a little script to, continue to hit an endpoint till you get to the end page. And I don't know, it was really interesting because of the way they described the job. Now, that's not particularly an infrastructure engineer job, but for the way that they described the job, it was a pretty interesting test to kind of do to kind of get through the door, which I thought was cool. And again, other jobs where they were like, hey, we strictly do, or you're going to be writing Terraform and you're going to be writing Ansible, so show us that you can do something with them, or at least that you have a general understanding, and they were fine. But yeah, so I wouldn't expect a whiteboard in a DevOps interview, but I would be prepared for it, but I wouldn't expect it. What I would be expecting are those higher level situational questions, and again, those are tough. Those are things that are hard to study for. Those things are really hard to study for. So I think it's kind of tough there. Sorry if you mentioned this. What's the difference between green and purple check marks on the doc? Great question. The purple, let me see if there's a legend on here, but from what I can tell, the purple are the things that are the recommended items to touch. Pretty sure. Personal recommendations. Yep, that's what the purple is. I did not cover that, so thank you for asking. I always skip over this. But yes, the purple things are the ideal things. And again, they're not all perfect. This is personally recommended by the person who wrote this. I do think all of their recommendations are pretty darn good, to be honest. I really do. There was only one on. There's like one on here where I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But where was it? Let me see if I can find it. Maybe it was Jaeger because I never use Jaeger, but let's see. I think it was Jenkins, but just because like they're right, there's a good recommendation, but I just don't like Jenkins. I think it was just me being a little cynical and a little angry. But yeah, no, I think all their personal recommendations are excellent, to be honest. I think this is really cool. Yeah, good question. What does a workday look like for a DevOps engineer? Great question. So, in my experience, it differs a bit. Again, it depends on whether it depends on whether you are an infrastructure engineer mostly, or whether you're what a DevOps engineer is kind of intended to be, or like how closely you're working with your development team, things like that. But honestly, depending on where you are in a project, when you're deep into creating a project in the beginning of the project, your DevOps day will be pretty intense. I think you'll be you'll be kind of responsible for getting that underlying infrastructure, those underlying processes and pipelines set up to support everyone. So you'll be, you really will be coming in and spending the day writing Terraform and testing, deploying things, writing, these Docker files and things like that. So you will spend a lot of time doing that. But what's interesting about the progression of kind of the DevOps role is you spend time setting those things up, and then although you do continuously add features, add customizations as new pipelines need to be created to support new applications and new projects and things, you'll implement those things. But you end up spending a lot of time maintaining and supporting. I think every DevOps engineer is responsible for responding to is portion of your job is doing break fixes, is fixing things that are broken, helping troubleshoot and isolate things as well. But yeah, I think the goal is usually being able to automate as much as possible, making sure things are stable and reliable, and that you can move quickly. But yeah, I think that some days your heads down, really trying to get some cloud formation or something out there to be able to operate this new infrastructure that you guys that someone needs, and it needs your support for that. And sometimes you are sometimes you're not doing much, especially if you do your job really well. You may spend a lot of time not doing all that much, but even though you may not be doing much, you're generally super responsible for everything. I think that's the problem. I think that's why, not the problem, but I think that is why people look up to DevOps engineers. I actually don't think the thing, I know a lot of software engineers who are like, oh, DevOps crazy and all that stuff. I'm like, I actually think quite the opposite, but I think why it seems that way is because DevOps engineers are generally the people responsible for handling the problems, or at least like, you can't really get away from it. You kind of own the whole thing. Even if it is a software issue, you're still there in support of those things. And it usually takes the DevOps engineer to discover that it's even a software issue or a systems issue, and being able to triage and support that properly. So yeah, it's interesting. The day can vary. Like I said, some days are super chill, because once you set those pipelines up, things kind of run smoothly, and you help out when you can. You can implement, increment, and iterate wherever you can. But a lot of times it's not. Let's see. Switch down for anyone else. I'm monitoring for mine. It looks fine to me. Akshay 1994. It looks good on my end, but definitely let me know if it's not. When is Jenkins coming back to the stream? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll reach out to him, man. We'll see when he wants to come out. He's a smart dude. He's really cool. I met him a couple years ago. Actually, it's interesting because I met him, we met through a Slack channel. We went to a conference. We hung out. It was pretty cool. So it's just kind of cool, like meeting people from the community. It's really dope, actually. That's what I like most about it, and to realize just everyone is just cool people, just living and having fun. Trying to learn and even talking to Michael about certain things. It's like he's been in the game for a super long time, and having conversations and stuff with him is just like, yeah, there's still stuff he's trying to get up to speed on and understand, but there's also a wealth of knowledge he has behind him. And just to start to realize that nobody knows all of this stuff, nobody, and you just kind of pick up as much as you can, and that's valuable. If you went through this 12 weeks, you now know more about DevOps than 95% of the population. And if you spend another 3 months going through things, now you'll know more than 98% of the population. So it's very interesting, kind of putting into having people to put it into that context for you. I'm gonna help you understand that everyone doesn't know it all. I'm not a DevOps engineer, but I'm a technologist. Workday varies. It can be busy. Yep. Some days are low, some days are high. Are we familiar with Terraform? Absolutely. We did a whole stream on Terraform. We built some things with Terraform for sure. Terraform is great. I do like Terraform a lot. I seriously, as someone who's been a part of the actually ordering servers, pulling them out of the box, getting drives into them, racking them, networking them, all that stuff. From going from that, like actually doing that, getting your OS installed, getting everything installed, Pixie boot and all that stuff, going from that to being able to literally write a file, an 8-line file, and being able to spin up a server that I cannot afford is wild to me. It's always going to be wild to me, and I love it. I definitely love what these new tools do. All right, so we talked again a lot about the technologies, and it's in DevOps. It can be easy to get stuck on those, but because of the mass amount of technologies, where you can really win an interview, where you can really set yourself apart, is again knowing what problems these tools and categories solve, being able to express that cleanly, and being able to articulate technical concepts to people who aren't so technical, putting them in ways that people can understand. But yeah, those communication skills, those valuable team member skills, not necessarily likability. So likability is important. We talked about that last night too. That is a significant piece of the pie as well. But being able to articulate the benefit of technology in a way that is consumable by people is very, very, very important. A lot of times, the people on the DevOps team are kind of on the front lines of technology business value. So I think it's super important to be able to do that. That's where you can win a lot, whether it be time savings or cost savings, or reliability and things like that. Being able to portray why you should do something or why you think something is a good idea is really, really, really important as well. Being able to also express that you can explain these concepts to other people on the team, that you can be a mentor to the other people around you, because again, this stuff is tough. It's really hard. And as they bring new people in, everyone would like to utilize you to make the team better. But I think that's super duper important. Super important. You said you're moving to serverless at work. Are you using the serverless framework we learned? So we are not using the serverless framework. I think we started out using the serverless framework. Right now, because we actually deploy everything with Terraform. Not Terraform. We deploy, because we had been deploying everything with CloudFormation. All of our Lambdas and stuff are written and are created in CloudFormation. Some are written inline in CloudFormation templates. Some are references to repos and things that are built and thrown in S3 buckets. But all of our function definitions are done through CloudFormation. API gateway stuff, all of it is done through CloudFormation. Not great. I love the serverless framework, but we do everything through CloudFormation. Unfortunately, we used to. We do all the new stuff in Terraform. But I'm not sure we're ever going to be able to get away from this the CloudFormation approach that we originally took. That's just because 4 years ago, Terraform was not as robust as it is now. That's all. Everything's a trade-off when you decide to do things. So yes, being the softer skills, the soft skills related to the hard skills, the tech skills are very, very important. Being comfortable, at least looking like you're comfortable speaking with people. I think engineering has become much more collaborative over the years, and showing that you kind of have that is great. It's really hard to work with someone in a high pressure situation that you can't talk to, that you can't speak to. Something that's really important. And I think that's not. I think some of that's an art. Some of it, you need some practice to be comfortable. I'm a pretty social person, but I definitely, going into new situations with new people, I definitely am not as social. I'm not as extroverted as I am in a lot of situations. So I had to learn how to do that. I had to learn how to allow my comfort to come through, and to kind of show people that, hey, I can be a contributing member to this company, and a contributing member to this team, for sure. So that's kind of tough, but I think a lot of that, again, go on interviews. You should be applying for jobs you are not qualified for. Flood the market, apply to whatever, everything. I don't care if it says senior, I don't care if it says 7 years of experience, apply to it. You may get a rejection email immediately. You also might get a little filter call. You might get a little call to just kind of have a conversation with you, where you get to start to practice expressing how much you know and responding to questions and things like that. It also gives you a chance to like fail in a relatively low stakes. I mean, if you need a job, it's high stakes, but I mean, I don't know, it doesn't really hurt. And I know it's uncomfortable, it's super uncomfortable to do, but half of it is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. Like the better you can get at being comfortable, not fully knowing what's going on, or like learning how to, exist in those situations, the better you'll be able to do in interviews, and the more comfortable you'll be. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to interview while you already have a job, when you already have a position and you're safe and it's not dire. Yeah, that's when you should interview the most, especially early on in your career. Get that comfort, just sit through them, try to answer as much as you can. When people ask you things you have no idea about, and I think this is where it gets different from everything else. The things you probably won't know a lot about are going to be those things that, like, it's going to be the bigger level questions of, like, I'm gonna give you the scenario and, like, what would you kind of implement to kind of solve this problem. Those are hard, because those are hard to write down, to go pick up information on that later and like be able to go research it. Like, it's not just one technology or one framework or something that they said. It's a vague scenario that has any number of answers to it, and now you got to go figure out how to put together an answer for that. It's tough, and you probably won't ever get asked that same question again, so that's tough as well. But yeah, you can really win doing that. So go interview. You'll get comfortable answering those questions. You get comfortable showing that you're that you can be a teammate, that you are you can be a valuable employee to that company. Also, in that same vein, interviewing there's a power dynamic to interviewing. Interviewing feels like to the interviewee that this is a one-sided thing. That company needs, when they're hiring for someone, they have a need. Not having a position filled that they need is probably costing them money. And they want, as much as you want that job, these companies also want to find people who want to work there and are excited to be there and a part of their company. So it's a two-way street. The same way that they're interviewing you should be interviewing that company. And it looks really good if you're asking questions that matter to you, asking about the work-life balance, asking about different scenarios and how people feel about certain things, asking about what the company. I think after all this is done, I think you should go in and ask companies, hey, what did this company do? What did you guys do? During the COVID-19 quarantining, like, did you lay off a bunch of people? How did you handle your employees in that situation? Because it's a good indication of what you can expect as you're kind of going through things. Ask questions about what your day might be like. Like, it's super important. Ask questions about the team that you might be working on. The size of it. What do people on that team like to do? Things like that. But it is a two-way street. You shouldn't. Again, this is advice coming completely from a place of privilege, coming from someone who has a job currently. But you shouldn't. I want to say you shouldn't just be out here trying to get any job. You should be trying to find the job that is also enticing for you, that's just as good of a fit for you as it is for them. But again, I completely understand. You got to take what you can take, especially if you're early in your career. Take what you can get. I truly believe that. I'm not someone who sits on the high horse and is like, no, I only work someplace where I believe in what they do. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe that. I don't have the luxury to believe that. So maybe you do. But I don't. And I think that's okay. But I do think there's enough jobs out here, and that these skills are valuable enough that you do have some, you have some play here. It's not a one-sided thing. you do have some play here. So I just keep that in mind as you're starting to build your interviewing skills, as you're starting to work at new places and pick up new skills. Start to kind of just understand what your worth is. Maybe things will change, and maybe the market will get flooded, and maybe everything will shift, and people don't need DevOps engineers as much anymore, and we won't have as much a leeway here, and you might have to just take what you can get. But I think right now, while the gettings are good, I think it's okay to be a little bit selective and to really mentally think about yourself as an asset. Like you're an asset to that company. So treat the process accordingly. Start to believe that and treat the process accordingly, for sure. See one, do one, teach one. Last one is speaking certain type. Yeah. I was a doer before and not really someone who could speak on what I did. Yes, I agree with you. I was exactly the same way. I would do it, but I had no idea how to talk about what I was doing confidently. I had no idea the words to use. I had no idea what was important. Like you have no idea, like you don't want to be telling someone, like, it would be weird to like walk into a Linux admin interview and be like, yeah, like I know how to change directories and I know how to list things out and I can even see the hidden files and like and talk about what you think are basic navigation things. So I found it difficult to know what even was worth talking about, like, because I assume there were some things I'm just supposed to know. So I think that was tough. And I think the more conversations you have with people, you'll start to see what those things are. You'll start to see what other people know. You'll start to see what's impressive, or like what is super valuable that that other people may not, or that that everyone knows that really well as well, that you can double down on. But yeah, wait, there are hidden files. Yeah. How about that CD command? Change your directory. I mean, seriously though, like, how do you know that that's not something that you should be talking about, that you should be highlighting? It's hard. Like, I don't know. Like when I first started learning Linux, I thought that was magic. I really did. And I never went and told anyone that, but I was like, I can navigate the command line. Like I can get around, I can go forwards, I can go backwards. Like, I know that stuff. But I will tell you, when you guys taught me that I could do CD minus and go back to the other directory that I was at, I'm gonna use that. If I ever have to interview anywhere again, I'm using that. I'm gonna talk about the little tidbits that I've learned from this stream, because I've learned a lot, and I'm gonna throw those things out there. I don't care. Definitely don't care. You're uncomfortable in public? I mean, yeah, like random situations. I mean, now probably not so much, but for sure. What's up, Zandy C2Z? Welcome to the channel from Brazil, all the way from Brazil. I don't know if that's how you say it, but I think that's how they said it on Fast and Furious. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Let's see. You're going to strut your CD commands? Yeah, they will give me the job for sure. The files are in the computer. Man, hey, these are dope things. They're definitely dope things. So, we learned how to, so now we have an idea about how to go about the tech stuff. Again, it's a lot of tech. Don't sweat it. You'll also, I think it's also good to continue, like, I think if your goal is to keep moving up in the industry, I do think you should go on a couple interviews a year, period. Why do I say that? Because you'll start to see you'll start to get an idea of where the industry is going. I think people will generally ask, similar questions. I think it's really good. I think I've seen people be super lost by not interviewing for a couple of years, and them still thinking that some tech was super hot, and it wasn't that hot anymore. And that's not necessarily a problem. But knowing how that tech fit, whatever knowing how that fits into the process really, really helps a lot. What in the world are you looking at? You're looking at a roadmap for how to become a DevOps engineer. It's interesting because this roadmap doesn't look as bad as but I get it though. The front end dev one, it was scary to me, I think. Or maybe it was the back end. Yeah, I don't know any of this stuff. Well, I know some of this stuff. That's interesting. I'm glad this makes sense. I find this stuff to be hard. I found web development to be really tough. I can develop you some APIs and all that stuff, but I don't know about front-end development. It kills me. It's interesting. Maybe we'll try to set up a course that goes through like I'm not doing a front end course. Maybe Terrence, if you want to do a front end course, you're more than welcome to do a front end course. I'm not doing a front end course. If any of you out there want to do a front end course, Terrence says, yeah, okay, all right, excellent. You go ahead and do that. Most of them have no idea how the internet works. That's true. They're trying to fix it. Yeah, they're definitely trying to fix. They're trying to fix who knows what. I do think you have to know about a little bit at least. Like, you don't need to know how the whole internet works, or DNS actually. And domain name. What is hosting? I like that. I also like how everything in here is recommended. Look, everything here is recommended, basically. It's interesting, but it's cool. This is out of my wheelhouse though, so I can't help you. Even though I do write some React because I have to, but that's also because I'm good at seeing patterns. And so like if you ask me to write a bunch of the stuff that I write now from scratch, I couldn't do it. But I can hop into a code base, break down what you want me to do, figure out how it works, and kind of see where I can update it and make changes and all that stuff. But I'm certainly not a front-end developer. Yeah, and then the last big thing, the last big one is it is likability. We talked about it yesterday. Terrence thinks it's number one. I say it's number three, but I don't think it's number three by far. Like, I think one of them's like 40%, the other one's like 30%, and what do we have? Another 30%. I think one's like 31%, and likability is like 29%. And so that like likability can take you a long way. And again, that's tough. Because that's all going to depend on the interviewer that you get for the day, the people that you talk to, whether or not they like you or not. But how do you become likable? I think most people, I really do. I think most people have a lot of likable qualities, and if you allow people to kind of see, I don't want to say see you for who you are, because that's like, I mean, you're meeting this person for the first time. It's interesting, but allowing some of your personality to shine through really does help. It can help you. It can definitely help you. And again, some people you just won't vibe with, and that's okay. And I think that's what the practice of going to lots of interviews does, is it starts to help you be okay with like, some people I'm just not gonna mesh with, and it can be the perfect interview, but they're not gonna pick me because they don't feel like I'm a fit, because we just don't mesh well. And sometimes your energy is just off. Energy is a thing. I firmly believe energy is a thing. And so, being comfortable enough to open up enough to put yourself out there a little bit. I think the way that you become likable is to gamble a little bit and put a little bit of yourself out there. I think people are usually scared to do that. But I think it can pay huge dividends to put some of your personality out there. Start to share some things about what you like to do, some things that aren't purely technical, like find an opening to talk about your hobbies, find an opening to talk about the things that you like to do, things that you participate in while you're not working. I think those things are important. They're good conversation starters, where again, you can fill, if you're afraid of those hard technical questions, work on ways to try to fill up as much of the time as you can with things that you think will be beneficial to talk about. I really think I find that it's easier than I originally thought to do. I watched a video. I remember there was a period of time where I was just interviewing at tons of places, and I watched a video about interviewing, and when the person talked about that, when I started to like think about it and feel what was happening in interviews, it was very, I've had at least 3 interviews where we never got past the first technical question, because I drove it everywhere where I wanted to go, and because we only had like an hour time span, and you take the first question, you start with that, you use it to flip it into something that you answer that question if you can answer it, and kind of move it into a different direction so that they start digging deeper into the things that you want them to, and you get to the end and be like, man, like, yeah, I killed it, because that was all I did was talk about stuff that I knew, so there was no opportunity for them to stump me per se. But yeah, so it's a pretty interesting thing there. So you got, I think there are 3 parts. I think there's the tech, There's your technical prowess. I think there is your employability. So how well you work in the culture, or with it, or if you can be a good employee. And I think there's a likability score for sure. And again, those two are interconnected for sure. They definitely have some overlap. There should be a Venn diagram there. But I think those are the three things. And I think you can really shine picking up any two of those things. All three will be amazing. But focusing kind of on two of those things really helps a lot. And again, I don't think you'll face a lot of whiteboarding. I don't think, and maybe if anyone else out there who's, goes through DevOps roles and stuff, maybe if you've seen a lot of whiteboarding things, let me know. Again, because I've only ever applied for lots of jobs on the East Coast, but I don't see that very often. I do get a lot of situational questions. Yeah. You help with the front end course? Excellent. Perfect. I would love to add them. That's dope. Definitely. I hope the QA engineer comes out soon. So I've learned so much about software testing over the past few years. It's actually super wild. It's a pretty serious discipline in its own right, to be 100% honest. But yeah. Mastermind knows the shotgun pattern of Ash and Overwatch. I almost do. I'm getting there. Not Reaper so much. I've put a lot of time on Ash recently. I'm getting there. I almost know the entire pattern. What do you personally look for in someone joining the team as a tech lead for DevOps team at Fearless? If this question is already asked, no, it's a great question. So what do I look for? So one, my project is not a life or death project. It is certainly not rocket science. I think for me, and in general, the projects at Fearless, Fearless works on some pretty amazing stuff for sure, like pretty super impactful stuff. But again, at the end of the day, we aren't rocket scientists. We really aren't rocket scientists. We're solving problems for the government. And honestly, I look for, I do look for aptitude. I look for aptitude over experience, and aptitude over for sure, aptitude over experience, and over current knowledge. Like, I don't think it's super important that you're super familiar with all these tools at all, because the tools change like this. So I don't really care about that. I do look for some base level concepts, depending on what the project is. So again, we work a lot with the cloud. So if it was for my project or another project that was very extensively heavy cloud related, I would look for a base level of knowledge with cloud computing, or at least some familiarity, because I think it's very difficult for you to even know how to hop in if you don't, for both Fearless's sake and your sake, to not make you uncomfortable. And obviously, if I know you're gonna have support, I look for a little bit less, but aptitude is the biggest one. Aptitude and hunger. If you seem like someone who wants to learn, like, not only can you learn the stuff, but do you want to learn? Are you going to be open to picking up new things and participating? And then, so it's also interesting that Fearless is everyone talks about the culture, and so I actually dislike I dislike the focus on company culture, even at places I think they have great company culture like Fearless, which does. I think it can be a little bit of an inherently exclusive term. Finding someone who fits or doesn't fit the culture is kind of weird. Kind of weird to me. But what I do look for is someone who not would fit the culture, but that would be comfortable participating in the culture, whether or not they fit it, but whether or not they're comfortable bringing who they are. I think everyone that culture becomes what it is because I think everyone who joins it changes it a bit. And that's, again, this is what I believe. And I think that I look for people who are willing to contribute to the culture of the company rather than be the same, but just who's going to be like, hey, like this is who I am, this is what I do, and I'm excited about this thing. Maybe no one else here likes that, but I'm willing to contribute myself to the company culture. I think I look for that as well. People who can bring meaningful change, honestly, to the company culture is what I look for. So again, aptitude, and I would say that I would classify the second one as energy, as how much energy, like if you're happy to, if you're excited to kind of do the thing, if you ask a lot of questions about the company, if you're excited to work there, because I think that is one of the things that makes particularly Fearless great, is that it feels like the people who are there are excited to be there. So I look for that. And the last thing is just like, do you have anything valuable to bring to the company, whether it's fitting in or not? Like, do you have something valuable to bring? You don't need it. Those are the kind of the big three that I look for, because I think that I don't know. I think the last one is big. I think, yeah, you get hired to do a job, but when you're brought into a company, I think I don't know. I think if you can give something to it, I think that's powerful. Let's see. Oh, I see the cat was not agree on culture. Yeah, it goes people, Aaron. Hey, I mean, yeah, yes. And also, the people I look for, what I'm looking for when I'm looking at DevOps engineers are people that I referred so that I can get a hiring bonus. Those are really the people that I look for. No, I'm joking. Let's see. Oh, you guys have been typing a lot. How would you troubleshoot a deployment issue with Docker for an application? Great question. Well, first I would break out my CD command. Yes, the first thing I would do is I would CD to wherever that Docker is. I don't know where the Docker is, but I would CD straight to it. Did you know you can CD with nothing in it? See, this is great. That is excellent. Yeah, did you know that you can just type CD and it'll take you to your home? It's a shortcut to home. The same place that tilde is. See, you didn't know that. You didn't know about that tilde. That's great. But that shows that you know a lot. I think if someone did that, obviously, I would know that they were a troll, because that is a troll statement. But I would also be impressed at their aptitude and how much they know. Pretty impressive. Boom, pow, moxie, and synergy in that order. Perfect order. Let's see. When a company scales, culture is important. We need to define what culture means. Yeah, and again, it is hard, but I do agree. I also don't think there's anything inherently wrong about a company culture. I do think the values of a company culture can be problematic, but I think it's like a company should have a culture, and again, that culture should be able to evolve as they grow. But it is hard. Scaling a company is difficult, and to try to keep the same culture is tough. Like when I joined Fearless, there were like 30 employees, and now there are over 100. And it's definitely a different place than it was then. But I think the overall feel, the overall values and ethos, and the general sentiment of the company is exactly the same. To be honest, it's pretty impressive. But yeah, as you scale, it's pretty tough to do though. Like you have to actively focus on making sure the place remains the place that you want it to be, for sure. Google has googly as their culture. Yeah. Seems like the term culture is what bothers you versus what it means. Maybe. Possibly. Yeah, possibly. I don't. Yeah, possibly. Fitting in, meaning culture. I don't know. Fitting in feels. It still feels weird to me. Definitely feels weird to me. Because again, I think you can absolutely be compatible with a culture without necessarily fitting in. I think fitting in is to me. Fitting in means. I think fitting in means assimilation to me. And I think assimilation and compatibility are two different things. But yeah, I think that's what it is for me. My topic: send me your resume to T-Bell. Yeah, yes. Seriously, if you do feel like you're hireable, or you want to be able to talk tech with people, like I think that's something that we love to do too. Like if you want to practice talking tech with somebody, like we love to hear about what you know, and what you're looking for. I'll be 100% honest. That would be good. But send your resume to T-Bell. We'll look at it. I gotta start checking my email more. Let's see. Look, you're willing to learn. Aptitude was number one. Yeah. Tech is so wild. Like if you're not willing to, if you aren't willing to like to learn, I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do. Like it's so wild how fast it changes. I am not working on almost any of the same technologies I was working on the same project that I'm on right now, 3.5 years ago. Like I was like all the technology was different. We were using Chef, we were on Rail 6, diving into stuff. Like we were using all kinds. We were on Jenkins, all that other stuff. We're not using any of that stuff anymore. So I think it's pretty interesting. So you got to be willing to. I didn't know any of this stuff like at all. So as long as you're willing to learn, I think it's fine. Especially, I'm fortunate enough to be at a place where there's a decent amount. There's a good amount of mentorship. So like, if I was working at somewhere else where I was hiring where there wasn't a lot of mentorship, I probably wouldn't. I'll probably be looking for something a little bit differently, because I know how daunting it can be to put someone in a position where they're lost and they don't have any help. And I think that plays into it. And although I would love to give someone a chance, I like that can break you. It can break you for sure. So I don't know. It's a weird game depending on what kind of support you have. But if you have support, if the support's there, I'm looking for aptitude and willingness to learn, to be 100% honest. Yes, yes, culture will always exist. Yes, I do agree with that. But culture it will always exist, and it represents the customs and social values, etc. And it can be, I think, culture can be impacted by people who are different. Culture can change. It can be contributed to. If you want to shout, reach out to T-Bell. If you want to hear a duck quack, press 3. I feel like I'm not quacking. That's not happening. Yo, Slave Al 2, Slave 12. I gotta make that bigger. Thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the family. Thank you very much. Advances requirements of the industry change, the scale of data. Yeah, it's no choice but to move forward. 1000%. Highlighted message, Quizak. You got to do it twice though, because we got 2 number 3s here. Culture is impacted by bad hires. That is very true. That's something that we don't talk about enough. Hence why it's more costly to be hired a bad person versus not hire someone at all. Yes, so I do think we should talk about bad hires. And why I think sometimes I think people are a little hard on. Well, it is a tough industry, and I think people are saying, "Hey, like people need to give us a chance." And I agree. I do agree. I think people should give chances again when they have the framework to support. But a bad hire is very expensive. A bad hire is tough because not only does a bad hire cost you and the amount that they in their own detriment, and then, like they also cost you in the amount of time it takes for from other engineers attempting to help and to get up to speed, and for all of the drama that goes around trying to figure out what to do with this person. It's expensive. It is very, very, very expensive. And bad hires can a bad hire for a company early on, especially with a salary like DevOps engineer salaries, could put a company in serious harm. Like could put them in a place where they might have to go out of business. Like seriously. So it is something that people should be aware of. It can definitely be problematic for sure. And that's why I do think that's why it's hard to take someone who doesn't directly. That's why it's easy to look for people who are like everyone, like who fit that culture. And again, I think fit's the wrong word. Compatible is the word that I like to use. I think compatibility is the word I like. I think your hesitation in speaking directly about your thoughts is interesting. Clearly, this is a delicate topic. No. I'll speak. I mean, I'll speak about it. I think I think what I'm saying is exactly how I feel. I think that compatibility to a culture is different from culture fit to me. 100%. Like, I think to me, they're two completely different things. And I think two things that are compatible aren't necessarily what people consider to be a culture fit. That's all. That's it. That's about as I think they mean the same. How do you feel the different? I think culture fit is this is right. So I think fits are compatible, but compatible is not necessarily a fit. So I think that culture fits are, yes, you are ideally, I think culture fits are, you are ideally what works with this culture. The things that you feel, the things that you do are completely in line with the things that this culture already does, the customs, the values that we already do. I think compatibility is that maybe the things that you do and that you feel and that you believe aren't necessarily in line with what we do here, but they're not at odds. And the contribution of those thoughts, the contribution of those things can meaningfully it may not change the culture at all, but it is not at odds, and it can work in this space. Isn't the same with fit? I think both are, again, I think both are suitable. I think both, again, I think fit is compatible, but compatible doesn't necessarily mean a fit at all. To me, I don't know. I'm trying to explain the best way I can. That's all I got. Though they're not the same to me at all. Like I mean, I've been at places where I was compatible but not a fit. I've worked at places where every day, yeah, they're like, yeah, we like to blast music in the office. I love to blast music in the office, but the music that anyone can be in charge of the music I like is not the music you like, and the things that you want to do after work are not the things that I want to do after work. But I'll participate, and I can operate in that realm. And the things that I can bring to you are way different, are 100% different than what would make me a fit. But I'm compatible here, and that what I can contribute to you, especially once I know how to introduce the things that to introduce, I guess, my culture, introduce my culture. I think you can implement those things and they can add to the culture of the company. But that creates conflict. If I blast music with cursing or music be stressful, it can create a bit of conflicts. And conflict is conflict is what causes change, though. It's what moves something along. To be 100% honest, I don't think that just because it causes conflict doesn't mean it's conflict isn't a bad thing. Always. Yeah, I think conflict. There are certainly different types of conflict, for sure. But I don't know. I think you've seen it more times than you think you have. It does depend on the type of conflict. I think you've seen it more times than you think you have. But there's compatibility and exact fit. I don't think they're the same things. If you think they're the same things, I get it. I definitely understand it. But I don't see them as the same thing. And I think they can both be valuable. Let's see here. So about 33% at minimum wage, interviewing, double. Interview the random person on stream. I do that. I would love to do that. Actually, would anyone be down for that? I would love to do an interview, like a DevOps interview for someone on stream. That would be really exciting. Actually, I'd definitely be down. Like if I want to wear Speedos at work. If you want to wear Speedos at work, I fully encourage it. It might be problematic, but it also, again, it might be something that no one at your company wants to do. But after you bring it to the job, what if a bunch of people decide that they also think that's a good idea and they want to wear Speedos at work? It's a thing. Cool. All right, Chalk and Code. See ya. Have a good night. We'll be on all day tomorrow too. So, what about smoking? I'm not a smoker. I think about smoking at work. Yeah. I mean, again, all this stuff is all these things and what is accepted are all pieces of culture that create conflict, that change over time. Whether one's good or bad is not at all what I'm arguing. Not even a little bit. I don't care what you decide is good or bad. I care that you allow your culture to be guided by the people there, and that again, it's about not creating. It's about that creating diverse thought through experiences. To be honest, so whatever you get is whatever you get. Any advice for getting DevOps engineer interviews? Coming from a completely unrelated industry with hobbyist experience, yes. Well, I don't think that you should go for DevOps jobs first. To be honest, I think you should go for jobs that fit into one of the categories. Again, like a systems job or a developer job or a networking work at a NOC, network operations center. Or something like that. Like I think it is difficult. I think there are more junior DevOps engineer jobs popping up. I do. But I think for some reason it feels like those are being held for people who are moving from other more cleanly defined industries in the tech industry. Which has been interesting to me. I've been surprised at how many people I've seen who had years of experience in junior DevOps roles. I've been very surprised at that, actually. But I definitely think it's possible. But I think to do it, you have to spend a lot of time diving into these categories, like a lot of time. And once you're capable of talking about it, people will call you back. People will definitely call you back. I just think, I think people will call you back. I think you just have to know your stuff, because I think with the lack of experience, I think you really got to be able to confidently speak about the tools and the things that they solve to be able to get past the phone screens and things like that. But there's a lot of tech jobs to get into this area for sure. So I would look for something that's using these tools and see if you can start to move in there. Because again, a lot of these jobs are feed into this, are portions of this. So that would be my advice, because I think it can be difficult to get callbacks and stuff when you're coming from a different industry in particular. All right, SVJ, are you interested? Cool. I'm gonna note down everyone who's interested for sure. I can volunteer, interview. Can I close the laptop when it gets really bad? Yeah. You got to do what you got to do. I get it. However you're again, it's a two-way street. I don't owe you anything. You don't owe me anything. If you got to close that laptop, you got to close that laptop. I feel you. You know, Skype on stream. I'm in on all that. I like that. Maybe we should do it since the boot camps are done this week. Maybe we can do it in the next week or two. We can figure out a time. I really, really like that. Going through a nice, comfortable interview. That would be dope. DevOps was the concept of having operations communicating with development to be more aligned with agile development, SRE. It's more an automation process, basically. Yep. Yes, it is, but they've become convoluted for sure. As a NOC engineer, what would you think my next step? So as a NOC engineer, so I've worked in a couple different NOCs doing surprisingly different things. I do think you can move directly from a NOC position to a DevOps role. Honestly, right in today's time, I think that the next step is almost always is to learn the cloud. I think that's where the most jobs are, like pick up some cloud knowledge, and I think you can use that NOC experience to easily move into a role more suited for what you want. If you want it to be in this DevOps realm of things. What's up? I am a Flex. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. But yeah, I would say your next steps are the cloud, and start picking up a programming language. Again, you don't got to get great at all. Just start to, like, I had to learn how to code like 4 times before I really got it. So like, start trying. But the cloud, I think, is where I send everyone first nowadays, just because there's just so much opportunity in the cloud that I see. Interested, if you tag Mastermind in the chat, say Mastermind, please interview me. I love it. I love it. I appreciate your attention. Night, the cat was not. Have a good night. See ya. Yeah, what time is it? 9:39? Yeah, we're about to get out of here in a little bit. Not sure if I'm DevOps oriented. I love coding and I'm finishing up my degree. I just want to leave the knock for sure. Oh, that's great. If you love coding already, and yeah, if you're not sure if you're DevOps oriented, I definitely understand. Someone probably coming from the not, you may want to get into more deeper networking things. If you like that stuff, I say go full networking. Like there's a lot of network engineering jobs. I don't know if you there's a guy, what is his name? He does a lot of, he like has like a sponsorship with Cisco and stuff. What's his name? Like Dwayne or something. I'm not bad. I feel bad about this actually. His name is, but he does a lot of networking stuff. If that's something that you're interested in, his name is Dwan Lightfoot. He has like he has this like lab every day, like YouTube channel. And so he has a bunch of stuff about interview questions and stuff as well. But he's super knowledgeable, but he has like lab every day, I think, is the YouTube channel. I'm trying to find it. I wonder why it's not on here, to be honest. Let's see if we can find it. But if you're interested in networking, lab. Okay. But I was pretty impressed. I watched some of his videos. I learned a lot about, it's really interesting. He doesn't have his YouTube. He has like a lot of YouTube followers. I don't know. Just Google lab every day. And there's a lot of networking stuff there. That's the only networking like resources that I know of. But yeah. Dope. Would you and I have a great question. Yeah, dope. What is that question? Python happens to be a very popular language for SRE DevOps. Yeah, Ruby's a bit outdated. Ruby's a bit outdated for DevOps. Again, I think the languages of the current landscape of DevOps are definitely Python and Go. Go is used for a lot of things, and a lot more jobs are using Go to do stuff. Ruby as well. But yeah. So how to draw an architecture that allows clients to subscribe notifications when there's an update in a store's stock. Yes, see, that falls right in line with what I was saying. Yeah, more situational things like that. That's interesting. Isn't network engineer the next step or not? Yep. What architecture should you go with? Like RS email. Ask what I would do. I said I would use observer pattern. Yeah, good. Gordon Lightfoot. Yes, sure. Let's go with that. And a coding than IT. Oh yeah, dope. So there are a lot of DevOps positions that are software heavy, but also sounds like you want to be a software. It sounds like you want to be a software engineer. I think that your knock experience actually will help you do something super software related. To be honest, how would I do it? How would I do let's see, subscribe notifications, a client. That was a client. Subscribe notifications. Then when there's an update in a store stock, that's interesting. I would probably, there are a number of ways to handle the pub sub stuff when updates in store stock, new arrivals. So do I have to do this fully manually? Because I'm pretty lazy, and what I would do is I've seen people set up some interesting triggers from like an SQSQ straight through something off, like through SES off to some type of mail client that handles this. Or I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. I don't think I would do this manually. But I guess that's the part of the question is you're not going to be using other tools. I don't know. Let me think about that. I'm going to give you an answer before we're off stream. I'm definitely going to give you an answer for that. Let's see. Python and JS are probably my best too. I'm okay with Java and C# or C++. There are a lot of JS jobs. Like if you're just trying to code, there are tons of JavaScript jobs right now. Go is what people consider a systems language for services. Yes. For services and tools, absolutely. Which is what you're generally doing a lot with, especially when you need to do things at scale. Solve problems at scale. Use software to solve systems problems, which is more of an SRE role. That is why Go would be good. So how would you design the architecture? I'm going to answer. I'm trying to think of. There are a lot of caveats to this, and I think I would need to know how many people were going to be subscribing, because I wouldn't want to make a infrastructure that was too crazy. I don't want to over-engineer this. So I have a couple questions first. I enjoy Go. Message bus like Kafka. See, that feels heavy. That feels heavy to me. Consumers are notified, services pushes the alert out. That I don't know. Like Kafka feels heavy, but Go is pretty cool to use. Go is pretty. PubNub is an interesting commercial product to use. Yep, SQS is. I would definitely set up something there for mobile. Consider React Native. So trigger function in the DB. They told me to use a trigger function. I think that's fine too. I think there's some. So here's the thing. I think what happens now is I think there's some that is certainly a way to do it. I think there's some interesting ways to do with serverless functions, with key value store databases. Like I think there's some interesting ways to kind of kick some of the stuff off. Trigger databases, exactly. They don't scale well. I do have. So I don't know. There's so many. There are. That is a tough one. Did they make you draw out the whole thing? Like, did you actually have to sit down and actually design it? Yeah, that like I think I would use some combination of Dynamo and SQS. Do you have to handle the actual messaging itself? I touched my mouse. So yeah, let me hit the little button so it auto suspend. Oh, I mean, of course, I would start with the CD command. You can't. Everything starts with the CD command. You got to get to where you're looking. They asked you that for a junior position. That is that's very interesting. That is extremely interesting. And you were able to answer that. If you were able to answer that, I think you are probably past the junior position. But yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah. Technically, I answered. I like it. But I think the fact that you even knew, you had an idea how to go about that, is actually pretty impressive. Yeah, I think it's pretty impressive. You want to do practice interview mastermind, just technically. I like that. Yes. And by today, I mean today, next week or something. Your boy is tired. Man, these all-day streams it's interesting because they're comfortable. But I think just because of the constant thinking, it's a mental load. It's definitely a mental load for sure. Yeah, as I'm saying, the observer pattern doesn't seem junior to me at all. Like, not even a little bit. It's a perfect answer. The questions are intentional. See how you can speak to limitations and benefits of each choice. Yes, you can actually. Your answer cannot actually be. It can be a bad choice. It can be a bad choice for solving the actual problem if when you explain it, when you explain it, you talk about the reasons why you chose those things. If it makes sense and in the context of what they gave you, it's perfectly fine. There's been a number of times where I've asked questions where the context didn't give full context, so people answered it, and I was like, I was expecting something different because I had a whole different context in the back of my mind. But yeah, sorry, this is fascinating to me. This is that folding at home thing. So I guess there are some jobs being processed on my computer right now, and I just like watching the numbers go up. But yeah. Learn to communicate. Yo, what's up, Graham B123? We were just talking, all we were doing was talking about, we're finishing up our 12 weeks DevOps Bootcamp. So we were just talking about the interview process, what you can expect during a DevOps interview, kind of what things you should be prepared for, so that you can kind of do your best. That's all we've been talking about this day. It is very, I see how stressful it is, finding jobs these days. It's so interesting because there are a lot of jobs, but the industry moves so fast. Everyone is looking for that mid to senior talent, which is understandable. And then it's funny because I get to watch companies backtrack off of what they originally thought they wanted, and had to come down to more realistic expectations because either one, they were finding people, but they were way out of their price range. So like I've seen companies looking for senior DevOps engineers trying to pay them $110,000 and being flabbergasted when when people were coming, they were getting interviewed, they were getting decent candidates, but all of them were like, yo, I want $180,000. Like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. Like, I want $180,000. So that's a bit interesting. And also just the companies that are over hiring their engineers, like hiring much higher than they need. That's also an interesting paradigm as well. A lot of people will just be like, oh, we need a DevOps engineer, and their CTO or their engineering lead will be a software engineer, and they'll be like, well, this is what they're getting paid. They should have 5-10 years experience, and they can come on over. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. I hope to one day just get paid more than 100K. I'm telling you, keep immersing yourself in this stuff, or not even immersing yourself. Just keep picking up the knowledge. Keep listening to things like this. Keep just picking up the skills, and like I'm telling you, before you know it, you'll be like, I'm a pro at all this stuff. Like, it happens surprisingly fast. Like, it really does. And it's easy. It is easier once you're getting paid on the job to do it, but that'll happen. It'll happen for sure. Programmers these days in California and New York can get, with around 5 years, can get you 221. Yes, 100%. Easily. SEO market is saturated. I don't know what that, what this would be, SEO? Somebody said Mountain View, not far. So, definitely for the Bay Area stuff, there's a different learning process. The interview process is very different. Like I said, I've interviewed for a couple of Silicon Valley companies, and the interview process was much more intense. But most companies, most non-Silicon Valley companies don't have time to invest into interviewing someone for that long. Like, it's really unrealistic. And so I don't know. I thought about for a while. I talked about it with some people. I was like, you know what? I think like the last place I want to work before I work on my own is I was like, I think I'm gonna try to get like a Google job, and I was gonna start studying a bunch of stuff. I went to a Google like sandbox event and got to talk to a bunch of the SREs there, and got to talk tech with them, talk about some of the problems. Appreciate the follow, Granby. Thank you very much. Got to talk to them about some stuff, and it was interesting. We like, they put us through some real problems. It was exciting. It was so interesting thinking about problems at a different scale than you're used to. Like, nowhere I've ever worked is nearly that large, and so I think we went through a problem about like I forgot what the problem was, but I came up with a reasonable solution for it. But again, the little kicker there was, at that scale, it wasn't going to work. Well, it did work actually, but there was a whole middle piece that I needed, which was interesting. But it was just a good conversation with them, just how like on why you need to be a little bit, you do need to be a little bit better than you might need to be out here for a lot of jobs. So it was very interesting. 30K back in 98. I feel like that might have been fine. I was making 38K in like 2012. And I thought I was balling. I thought I was. Bay Area, I would have jobs for my stock vest. Like, if I was gonna go do Silicon Valley stuff, that's what I would do. I would work till my stock options vested, and I would be purely out there to get rich, I think. I'll be out there to get rich. Yeah, 30K is pretty slow. I think we pay our interns. Yeah, I think our interns get paid about that. Well, actually, I don't think we have any interns anymore, but I think when we did, our interns got paid about that. So thank you. I see that your name's in blue. I think it's Sleva. That's a great book. There are a bunch of good books. I do recommend that people trying to get into DevOps start reading about architecture and design. Like, architecture and design is big because there are a lot of different patterns. There are a lot of different things that I think you can become familiar with that you can use to apply to these things. It helps a lot. Like, I never really dove into those things, and I ended up getting a scholarship to some O'Reilly like software architecture conference, and it changed everything. Like, a couple years ago, it changed so much. Like, it really accelerated everything, because those were just things that I wasn't I hadn't been spending my time. I was learning the tools still, but understanding how the stuff fits together, understanding how to solve problems is what you're really getting paid for. Not the tools. You're not getting paid to know the tools. You're getting paid to solve the problems. And so moving from the soldier on the ground who would, you got to tell me exactly what to do and I can do it. Like, you got to tell me I need to make a playbook, an Ansible playbook that does this thing. I'm in. I'll do that for you. But if you brought the problem to me, I didn't know what to do. It's like, okay, well, that thing is broken. You gotta fix it. I don't know. So that was very interesting. But I would recommend that people start reading some books about the kind of theory of technical design and things like that. Is a little bit better. Helps a lot. I wonder how much those Fry Guys make. Where do you work now? Where do I work now? I work for a company called Fearless. A software company in Baltimore, but I am in it's well known now that I am in a program. I'm in this program called Hutch. They're actually it's a business incubator. So it's actually part of it. I actually have to not work there sometime this year. So working on a transition plan now. Working on a transition plan with them to kind of be out on my own and doing my own thing. So yeah, more information. I've talked about it a couple of times, but Mastermind is actually bigger than just the streams. This will always be the streams. Like, the streams are going to be what they are, free. People learning tech, just kind of having fun, building projects. But Mastermind itself is going to be a bigger company than just this. It'll be bigger than just this online brand, but it'll have a huge content focus though. Yes, stuff like that. Green blue deployments. That's actually really good. So we're working on an intermediate DevOps course, and deployment models is something that I have on the task list to try to set up some good stuff for. So yeah, green blue, having basically a hot environment and a cold environment. Instead of deploying to an existing environment, you deploy to the one that's off and promote that one up. It's very interesting. Canary deployments, all that stuff. There's a lot of deployment models and stuff to kind of practice, which kind of help you solve some problems. So those are good as well. Yes, it is. It's gonna be more than just me, Terrence, and some LaCroix. Even though that's the heart of Mastermind, though. Me, T-Bell, and some LaCroix. Oh man, we gotta get that. Somebody gotta get that. Terrence, you gonna get that tatted on you? I feel like you gotta get it. I'm not getting it, but all day you're like, okay, I feel you. LaCroix's gonna come through one day, though. I mean, I'm gonna sneak into the office, and I'm gonna get some LaCroix. But cool. All right, it's 10 on the dot. I'm sorry if I don't feel as energetic, if I don't sound as energetic as I usually am. Like I said, we streamed all day. For anyone who doesn't know, just this week we're doing something called Operation Quarantine. We are building a learning platform. We're building an open source course builder where people can take the already existing information that's online and build out courses for everyone to consume. So we do that. We've been doing that all day. Today we were on from like 9:30 to 5 o'clock. So we'll be doing that for the rest of the week. So I'll probably be tired tomorrow too, but tomorrow we have engineering panel. Check out the engineering panel for the Python Bootcamp. We'll have a completely different set of engineers on there, and that will be pretty fun. Come get your questions asked, get your questions answered. That should be pretty dope, and that will wrap up both bootcamps. That's full 12 weeks of both bootcamps. Friday, we're planning on doing a retrospective to just talk about how the boot camps went, things that were good, some feedback on it, things that were good, things that were bad, what people want to see, things that we can change. There's a lot that we can change, and then we can update as we have more time. More time is coming, and we'll be playing games during that whole time, to be honest. Playing some Overwatch, playing some Doom, all kinds of stuff, playing some Jackbox games. But yeah, that is it. So it's a long week, but like I said, I know everyone can't come and sit around for 7-8 hours with us, but drop in for a little while. It's a whole agile development project, so we do in fact have a Scrum Master. She's been on here before, but Coffee from she owns a company called Uplight. They do project management, and they manage projects, Uplight. But she's helping us manage this project, and we're just chilling, having fun, relaxing all day. So you can kind of see what that process is like. We're creating user stories. We're doing all the stand-ups and all that other stuff. So if you want to see what that stuff looks like, check it out. I need to get this app built for live trivia on Twitch going. That sounds excellent, actually. That would be cool. That would definitely be pretty darn awesome. But cool. That's it. Let's go link WebSockets. I would definitely be interested in seeing that and participating. That's pretty cool. I love Golang. I love WebSockets is cool. But cool. I'm going to go watch a movie. I just watched, so in between the last stream and the stream earlier and this one, I watched what's the movie on Netflix with my mind just went blank. Something with Mark Wahlberg, the Mark Wahlberg movie, Confidential, Spencer Confidential. That was decent. It was entertaining. So I'm about to find another entertaining movie. Also, I rented Invisible Man the other night. That was pretty good too. That's pretty entertaining. Tiger King. That's what I'm watching. I wanted to watch Tiger King. I'm definitely watching that. I'm definitely gonna watch Tiger King. Got to. I saw it the other day. I was like, this looks wild. Is it that crazy? I'm definitely gonna check that out. Insane. I'm boosted actually. I'm gonna go start watching that right now. Then I'm gonna get some sleep so that we can wake up in the morning and we can do some dope stuff. It's a roller coaster. Dope. Well, everybody have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out. You think this person has a problem, and you're like, this other person, I love it. I love it. I'm going to watch it right now. I'll let you know. Tune in tomorrow. I'll let you know what I think about it, because I'll watch maybe all of it. So we'll see. Have a good night, everybody.